Good morning. This is a question answer for Mother Flippin' Gigi. But to those who don't know the question, I'm just going to be paraphrasing it here. Gigi asked, how do you truly let go of the guilt when you feel like you're supposed to feel guilty? Now, I'm sure there's more to it. I just don't have the question in front of me to directly quote it. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the feeling of supposed to feeling guilty. Because truth be told, that's a big thing. That is a real big thing. Like feeling like you're supposed to feel guilty rather than, like, long story short, we always talk about surrender on this channel. Surrender being, if you don't know, a very simple and amazing process of letting yourself fully feel whatever is happening underneath as a method of healing, letting go, as a method of, I guess, transcending where we are at to become truly who we are meant to be. Now, what happens is this week we've been talking a little bit about forgiveness, a little bit about letting go of guilt and surrendering to guilt. And how do we let go of guilt? Well, we surrender deeply to that guilt. We let ourselves feel that guilt fully. Now, what happens is, though, is honestly, it's quite hard sometimes to let go of the guilt when there's a lot of stuff around it. Remember, I've always been saying this. Usually it's not the feeling, it's how we feel about the feeling. Or usually it's not the thing, it's how we feel about the thing. You know, like, for example, if you're trying to use surrender to lose weight, usually it's not the weight or the food, it's how we feel about it. In the sense of guilt, feeling like you should feel guilty is a very common thing. It's like we've been trained to do it. We've been trained it. It's like society tells us, or people will tell us, like, don't you feel guilty? You should feel guilty. And we often tell ourselves that if we aren't feeling guilty enough, it's like we didn't love, we didn't care enough, we weren't expressive enough. But truth be told, love and guilt are two different things. Now, I know in this case, I know the situation. I'm not going to really truly mention it, but the guilt that Gigi's feeling is around not necessarily, like, it's like you should have known better. You should have seen the signs better. But you didn't. And that's the truth. Forgiveness in yourself is knowing that you did everything within your power with what you knew at the time. You didn't know. That's okay. So how do you let go of that feeling that you should feel guilty about whatever situation that you're in? Very simple. It's always surrender. Surrender to that feeling that you should feel guilty. Let yourself fully feel it without trying to modify it. It's a mechanism. It's an inbuilt part of who we are. Feeling guilty and feeling guilty is fine. Feeling guilty about not feeling guilty, also fine. But it will not pass until you fully let yourself feel it. My guess is that you feel guilty about feeling guilty, or you feel guilty about not feeling guilty about, like, it's like there's more layers. But just like a Jenga tower, the whole Jenga tower will fall down. Like, the whole tower of pain will fall down once you've surrendered the deepest core of it all. But sometimes we can't get to the deep core because there's other stuff. We can't let ourselves fully grieve because we feel bad about grieving. We're like, oh God, it's too much, or we should have been done by now. Or there's pain around feeling guilty, so we feel guilty about guilty, but we're not actually dealing with the original guilt. And that is, the original guilt is that, like, we're punishing ourselves. That's what that is. Now, there is a common belief, I don't know if you go through this specifically or someone else going through this. There is a common belief that if we make other people feel better by feeling guilty. And for some people that's true because, well, they want us to feel bad because they feel bad. But that doesn't help anyone long term. I've often said to people that if you want to help other people, be an example. At the very least, be an example. Do not punish yourself because someone else is in pain. Heal yourself so you can heal them. Be better. Grow, expand, surrender, love, deep passion. All of this stuff. Be the you are truly meant to be. And love and dance and play. But we're often in a situation where, we feel guilty about being happy. And then we feel guilty because we feel like we should feel guilty. But the truth is, you can grieve in your own way. You can grieve in whatever method, whatever way you want. How you grieve will be unique for you. And once you realize that, you'll actually see how it's similar. Most people grieve in weird ways because they don't let themselves feel, and it takes longer than it should. It's important that you surrender to the guilt, surrender to the grief. There might be a lot of it. But you also surrender that you suppose that feeling, that deep feeling inside that says, I'm supposed to feel guilty. I'm supposed to feel this way. I had similar things in other parts of life. I'm supposed to feel bad. I don't. I don't. In lockdown, I feel like I'm supposed to watch the news all the time and freak out, like I'm watching other people freak out. I don't. I just don't. Ownership of ourselves. This is what this is about. And when you have come to the conclusion about it, most people will be brought into alignment with you. Karma is a prison now. Feeling guilty is karmic punishment. But we are the ones who put ourselves in that prison, not anyone else. So if you're feeling like you are struggling, if you're feeling like you are struggling with struggling, more importantly with this video, if you feel like you are supposed to feel like you are struggling, the way out is not to say, don't feel that way, just stop it, suppress it. The way out is to fully feel. The way out is and always will be to surrender. To surrender to that feeling that you should feel bad. It's not your fault. We could have done things better. We can always do things worse. It's not your fault.